What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over 6 games that are releasing in August of 2023 that you should be excited for. We're going to go in order of the game's release, and we're going to start with Baldurs Gate 3, a game that really you don't have to sell to that many people. This game has been gaining steam for quite a while now, had a massive pre-access launch to the game. Many people were playing it. Many people are excited for the full release on August 3rd. And even me, as somebody who has never touched Dungeons & Dragons and have never touched a Baldur's Gate game before in his life, I am going to be picking this up. It looks fantastic, from just the role-playing elements to the character creation to the combat to the amount of cutscenes that are going to be into this game to the amount of ending variations. This game honestly does seem massive, and it's kind of gone under the radar of how big the game is probably going to be when it launches. But now, as we've gotten closer and closer, I think more people's eyes are on this thing, and it's exploding. It's very exciting. I'm very excited for it, and it's the first game in August I'll be getting. Next up is on August 10th, which is Atlas Fallen. So this is actually from the makers of the Surge games, Surge 1 and 2. This has been another game that I think is definitely smaller than a Baldur's Gate, but it's similar in the sense that I just think not a lot of people have been focusing on it. I think as time has gone on and as we've gotten closer, again, more eyes have been on it. I think the reception for it has been relatively good. You can watch an entire gameplay overview trailer that they dropped about a month or two back. It looks pretty darn fun, an action RPG. You can play it by yourself. You can have drop-in, drop-out co-op with another person. It specializes on the combat, on looking for weaknesses on enemies, on playing it how you want to play it. And in this game's case, it's really the abilities that you'll be able to use. There are many, I believe they said over 100, and you'll be able to, again, tailor that to how you want to play the game. Again, looks pretty cool. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more under the radar. It's also being published by Focus Entertainment, who really doesn't miss. They find these extremely talented games that are kind of under the radar. They've published the Plague Tale games and many others that I think have become really good games that maybe weren't looked at all that much leading into them, and then they turned out to be really good games. So this is going to be a game that I watch pretty closely, especially like when it launches, to see that day one gameplay. How fun is it? Are people just generally having fun? Because I think that's going to be this game's greatest strength. And also coming out on the same day, here's a very under the radar one for you: Stray Gods, the role-playing musical. I actually did a full video on just this game on the channel. Looks really good. It is, well, actually the name kind of gives it away. It is a role-playing game, but it's literally a musical. So they'll burst out into song during the actual game. You'll make choices that'll determine things. So it's, maybe think of it like a Telltale Don't Nod like thing, but also a musical. So looks pretty cool to me. I think this game is going to be very under the radar. It's got a really big cast with Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson and Laura Bailey, plus actually many more. So it's got the talent. It's been worked on for an extremely long time. It was originally crowdfunded, so I'm rooting for kind of an underdog like this game to come out and not just be good, but then also be successful.Moving on to August 18th, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. This, to me, is the game of August. You could argue maybe Baldur's Gate would be, but to me, it's Texas Chainsaw. This game I've been into ever since they first announced it. It's being published by Gun Interactive. You might recognize that name from like Friday the 13th. This will remind you of Friday the 13th and Dead by Daylight and Predator Hunting Grounds, that kind of group of games. I think this game does enough to be pretty darn unique. I think it is by a mile the hardest game of that entire group, where you really have to play your role, whether you're the family members, right? So Leatherface and then the rest of the family, or you're what they call the victims, right? Which are these characters, and they have very specific traits depending on which one you choose. It's still a basic idea. The family kills and then the victims try to escape, right? But I think this game has a lot more depth than what we've seen of the other games, the Friday the 13th. This game also relies the most on, I think, communication, in that you really, again, have to be not only doing your job, but talking to each other and planning it out. I think when this game gets going, it's going to be filled with some really skillful players. You might be asking, why do I know all this stuff? It's because I played the tech test, which people already got, their hands on to see what this game was going to be like. I really liked it. I actually think about the tech test quite often. It's also coming out in Game Pass, so let's just throw that one out there as well. This game's coming out on Game Pass day one. I think that should help it and kind of attract even more eyes to this game. Moving on, just 4 days later, we have Immortals of AVM on August 22nd. This is that EA, and I haven't really patented it, but it looks to me like a Ghostwire Tokyo / Doom-like game. Now, this game was delayed. This game was actually supposed to release just in the middle of July. I actually think that would have been really good for it because there's no competition. Whereas, as you go forward in August, as you get to the end of August and the beginning of September, you're entering Starfield territory and many other games. So I hope it can do well. Obviously, the game needs to be good first, but I actually really like how this game looks. I'm not putting too much stock into the story or anything. I'm mainly looking at this for the gameplay, and that is how they've sold it. This Doom influence, Call of Duty influence, and by the way, the people that made these games, not everybody, but some of them have actually come to work on this game. So it should remind you of Doom. It should remind you, to me, it reminds me of Ghostwire Tokyo because of like the elemental powers. I know people have thrown in like Doctor Strange, right? That it kind of looks like that as well. Looks fun. It's just going to have to kind of capture the Doom energy, the Doom vibes, and that's a very specific formula of constantly introducing new enemies, having bosses then become sub-bosses, mixing up the environments while throwing different combinations of enemies at you, constantly giving you new powers to fight with, right? I mean, it is a specific formula, and if they nail it with this magic-based kind of combat, I think the game could be rather good. It's a single-player game. It's a full-price game, so it is, kind of asking a lot, and for a brand new IP, and again, the story doesn't make me like all that excited, but I'm mainly focused on this game because of the actual gameplay. And then to wrap it all up, on August 25th, we have Armored Core 6. So From Software is back, and I'm actually recording this the day after we just got the big gameplay reveal of Armored Core. People got their previews. Game looks awesome. Game looks difficult. I've played one Armored Core game in my entire life, and it was back in the day on PC. I had no idea what I was doing. I wouldn't say I liked it, but I was also very, very young and had no clue. This game looks a lot of fun. It looks like that From Software, the Soulsborne kind of feel into it. The bulk of the game is single player, but there is the arena modes, right, where you can do 1v1 or 3v3. So it's got plenty of content to it. It's got 60, they say it's got 50 to 60 hours worth in the single player campaign. So this game is massive. It's bringing Armored Core back to, I think, a brand new fan base, and it's going to have a brand new fan base because of the Soulsborne people. I think are going to kind of populate it. And from what we've seen, the game looks absolutely spectacular. So let me know some games that you're looking forward to in August, whether they were on my list or whether they were games that I skipped. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.